Okay, Parshas Bahar. Parshas Bahar is really Shemitah. Parshas Bahar is all about Shemitah. So many incredible limudim, and really the overarching limud of Bahar is bitachon. And we always speak out that if we were to really realize what Shemitah was, that year number 6 finishes, and you're taking off for the year. Unpaid vacation. I mean, it was paid. God promises you'll get it, but the bottom line is the boss is not sending you a check. It's quite a difficult ordeal, and all the different limudim that go with it. So Ramesha Feinstein over here, I found fascinating, is that he really directly takes the parsha of Shemitah and he literally transcribes it into our daily life. So, as we always try to do, let's read a few of his incredible words and try. Bitachon is difficult. And, this is why it's the limud we chose to learn a few minutes every day. It's eye-opening. It's the type of thing you work on when life isn't throwing challenges at you. But when aren't there challenges? There's always at some level challenges. But you try to build up your reservoir of bitachon so that when it gets more difficult, you have what's in there. So says the pasuk, Sheish shanim, for 6 years, tizra sadecha. And then on the 7th year, of course, you leave the field. So asks Ramesha Feinstein l'chayra, why did the pasuk have to say this? When it comes to Shabbos, I understand that I had a right. That when it comes to Shabbos, you work 6 days, and on the 7th day, it's as if all your work is done. I understand that, but says Ramesh, has nothing to do with Shemitah. So why does the Torah tell you work for 6 years, and then year 7 you leave it? Just say year 7 you don't work. So just to parenthetically mention, we've mentioned many times that when it comes to Shabbos, our mindset is that the not working on Shabbos is that which directly fuels our working during the 6 days of the week. It's not two separate entities. It's that when you stop and when you don't work on Shabbos and you allow the makar of all bracha, that's what allows the 6 days of the week, an idea that we've spoken about many times. But says Ramesha, you know what it's teaching us? It's teaching us an incredible lesson. Shebeshei shanim asur lismech alanes. Someone were to say, you know what? Hashem gives me in year 7. Hashem gives me in year 6 for 6, 7, and 8. Hashem could clearly give. So what I gotta work? You know what? I'm resigning. Finished. Hashem will give me. Well, what am I wasting my time? The pasuk's telling you no. You have to get a job. We have to. We live in this world. Hishtadlus. Which, of course, this is the incredible, difficult balance of the two. But says Ramesha Feinstein, the pasuk is teaching us that you have to work for 6 years. Avol b'shana shviyes, on the 7th year, when the Torah says that you're not allowed to work, then if the Torah dictates, thank you, I have one over here, Shkach. If the Torah dictates you're not allowed to work, so obviously what comes together with that? That the Torah dictates, Hashem dictates that you're going to have what to eat. On the 7th year, you're not allowed to work. Therefore, we're confident that Hashem will provide for us, and even a little bit that v'gam bim'at yisparich. Okay, so lesson number 1, pretty easy. I think we all knew this one. I don't think any of us were holding at the place of resigning and just living a life of miracles. But at different levels, it's important. But now continues Ramesha, and he says, we know that the pasuk says that people are going to ask, "Man noichal, what am I going to eat?" And then the pasuk continues and says, "Oh, I'm going to give you extra bracha." Says Ramesha, it's not a bracha; it's really a negative. Let's understand what he says. Lo yitzrichin klal bracha that's full meruba. The pasuk says, and if you're going to ask what you're going to eat, to what's going to happen? Oh, you're going to have a lot in year 6 to 6, 7, 8. Says Ramesha, that's not a bracha. Why? Because if you have all this extra tvua, all this extra grain, you don't have to work on it. Ramesh says, you know what the real bracha was supposed to be? That whatever you had would just last on its own. You wouldn't have more grain. You wouldn't have more items, because when you have more items, you have to work more. Says Ramesh, really what should have happened is like the Levium, the Lechem Apanim. You have one bite, and you're satisfied. So the real bracha is that the little bit that you would have would last you for 3 years. But because you asked Hashem, how am I going to eat? So then Hashem says, okay, I'll provide, but it's going to be with a little bit of difficulty. And from here, Ramesha says we could take a lesson home with us, a difficult lesson, but one nonetheless that we could strive to live by. Let's learn from here. Then even now, one should not worry. Maybe I'm not going to be able to profit. One might feel, 1 second, if I don't work hard enough, what we think is hard enough, and I spend time davening, and I spend time learning, and I spend time doing the right thing, I'm not going to get enough. Says Ramesha, what do you mean? You have it backwards. By asking, what are you going to eat? You had to work more. If you didn't ask that question, then the 6 years produce would be enough and it will last. Let's just put into numbers. It's not difficulty. Let's just understand it. Let's say in 6 years, let's go with bushels of apples, and you have a bushel of apple each month. Okay, so 1 year you have 12 bushels of apples. So what should have happened if you would have had bitachon? Those 12 bushels of apples would have been enough to give you for year 6, year 7, and year 8. How is that possible? Well, that's the bracha Hashem would have given. It would have required 0 extra work. Each apple would have somehow given you more, and you would have been fine. Because you said to Hashem, oh, how am I going to live? What's going to be? Hashem says, you need? Okay, I'll help you. So now I'm going to give you 36 bushels of apples, which is, it's incredible bracha, right? Yeah, but now you got to work on it. Now you have to deal with all those apples. It's a lower level bracha. So says Ramesha, so no one should say, 1 second, how am I going to get enough parnasa? If I spend time davening, I spend time learning, I spend time doing chesed, I'm not going to be able to do it. What am I going to eat? Says Ramesha, no. Hashem has the ability to take a little and have it expand. The whole reason we need to work in the first place is why? Was because of issues we made. Is only if you're not doing properly. So let's put this into practice and let's try to understand the high level that Ramesha is teaching us. One needs to work, yes. So 9 to 5 I'm working, but someone says 9 to 5 I'm working. Well, I'm not going to be able to make enough. I have to work 9 to 9. Let's go extreme. I don't know if that is extreme, but let's just go extreme. 9 to 9. So now, because he says to Hashem, what am I going to do? I'm not going to eat. Hashem says, you fool. I could have taken whatever you would have made in 9 to 5 and made it work for you. Whether that means it would have got you more money, whether that means you would have been able to live on less, whether that means money would have come from elsewhere, doesn't make a difference. We have to realize that the bottom line is determined by Hashem. That's the real level of bitachon. And of course, this is very difficult. And of course, we're also seeing that at some level Hashem realizes the difficulty, right? Because what happened when very good. And what's Hashem's response? Hashem's response not, Hashem says, you're going to ask? I'm going to give. Because clearly you're believing and you're trying, which is the second limud. Clearly you're trying. Very good, very good, very good. Clearly, you're not being the, I don't want to call him a Rasha because the guy's just being practical. I have nothing to eat, God. I'm working my field in Shemitah. You're saying, no, I'm struggling. Hashem, I know I'm supposed to do the right thing. I'm struggling to do the right thing. I want to rely upon you. Hashem says, okay, I'll give you. But I'm going to give you in a way which is a little bit more difficult. So let's realize that there's 2 levels being played out over here. And of course, every level is an incredible madrega. And of course, in the world of bitachon, we move in micro inches. I know it's not a measurement. We move in the smallest little bits. But the pasuk is teaching us, you know what the real level is? We know we have to work, and we actually learned this past week in Beis Halevi. You know you have to work. Great. So you work. How much do you work? So you figure out, I need to have a job, because that's normal. I need to put food on the table. Okay, so that's what I work. And then what happens? Comes a month and you realize, hey, I'm not making it. But you're doing what's right. So the natural response is, I'm going to work more. I'm going to take on an extra job. I'm going to give in on the night seder. I'm going to give in on the minyan. I'm going to run out early. I'm not going to do this. Says Hashem, well, you're hurting yourself. I could have made it work for you. It doesn't look good. Okay, Just wait. I would have made it work. But then the next level is when you realize the bills are not adding up. What do? Don't go work more. What do we do? You turn to Hashem. You say, Hashem, I can't do it. I'm not able to, but help me. I'm not going to go and do extra. I'm not going to give in. And of course, these are all incredible questions. At what point and at what level and how much is doubtless. But we have to realize that when we come to ask the question, we're still safe. Hashem's still going to answer it. Just make sure we're asking Hashem the question. Make sure we're saying, Hashem, what am I going to do? And then Hashem will say, I'll give you. It'll be a little bit difficult, but I'm going to give you. But at the moment that we take the next step and we say, God, obviously you can't do it. You obviously don't have me in mind because I'm just not making it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to give in on Minyan, I'm going to give in on Nightzid, I'm going to give in on Chesed, I'm going to give in this because I need to go work. Hashem says, okay, no problem. You want to take care of yourself? Good luck. Good luck on the island all by yourself. Very, very difficult. I said over a short line today at the end of Beis Halevi share. I don't know if anyone heard it. I want to repeat it. Today I had this chasser of Druk from Eretz Yisrael came down. Going HaGadol. It's stories I heard afterwards. Stories. Someone went over and asked him for a bracha for his brother. Didn't say anything. He said, your brother doesn't know what he wants. You just said his brother's name. Levels. He was kind of Chavrusa for 20 years. We're dealing like extreme levels. But he said over a vart when it comes to bitachon, he says we all know the line. Ein lanu lisha'ein ella alvinu shabashamayim. We only have one person to rely, one entity, Hashem. Okay, we all know it, right? We could sing it, we could scream it. We could only rely on Hashem. Givaldik, bitachon. He said, look at the words. What does the word lisha'ein mean? To rely, to lean. He said so simple, but so beautiful. How do you lean on something? The item has to be there to lean upon. If I want to lean on this chair, I have to have the chair back to lean upon. If, sometimes this happens, you don't realize that there's no back there and you go lean, and what happens? You fall. We want to lean on Hashem. Hashem has to be next to us. We want to lean on Hashem? Amazing. What's the first step? Make sure the chair is behind you. Make sure you have what to lean upon. Make sure you're coming close to Hashem. First, come close to Hashem, and then you'll be able to rely upon Him. Then He'll be able to take care of you, which is really what we're learning over here. It gets difficult, and we don't have to wait to a Shemitah year, to year 6 to say, Ayvei, what are we going to eat? For many people, this is a daily, a monthly, often. You do the numbers, it just doesn't make sense. And our question is, Hashem, man, what are we going to eat? So we have to realize, number one, we could say, Hashem can do it. It's hard work. We have to try to believe it. We have to try to work in it. We have to work on our bitachon. We have to work on our amunah. We have to realize Hashem could do it. And even if we're not there, we're not at that level. As we see in the Psukim, Hashem realizes that we're going to ask. So ask. Turn to Him and ask. Turn to Hashem and ask. And yes, ask and scream and plead and wonder where Hashem is. Because the more we wonder where Hashem is, you know what we're doing? We're coming closer and closer. And we're putting that chair right behind us. And then we'll be able to lean on Hashem. And then if we lean upon Hashem, then Hashem will give us. Then Hashem will give us the bracha. So as we read the Psukim of Shemitah, it's a simple lesson, but it's something that we all knew. Really, we all knew what I just said tonight. I don't think there was one chiddush, one novelty, maybe the example about the chair. But once we know it, we just have to remind ourselves again and again and again. And the more we talk about it, and the more we try to focus on it, the more we try to realize it, is the more that we'll be able to realize it. Just about talking about things, I want to end with a very 2 60-second stories. We always talk about Meiser. So anytime I hear a story, let's publicize it. Let's realize. Someone told me this past week that he had X amount of money allocated for Meiser. He wanted to do something with it. It was a sizable sum. He was going to do something with it. He was thinking about different ideas he had. Someone called him up from Eretz Yisrael that they wanted to start a kollel and they needed money. He heard the cause and he said, you know what? I had that money earmarked. Let me just give it to them. And on the spot, let's say it was $10,000, whatever the number was, tells this person, it's yours. Effectively, immediately starting a kollel up. The next day, it was wild. The next day, this kollel started. 4 people that started learning. Beautiful. The guy told me 24 or 36 hours later, I don't remember, the exact amount that he said he's giving, matana came straight his way. A relative called him, this is distribution from a business, boom, we're giving it to you. From nowhere. We hear it, we preach it. We just have to keep on living it. And just because we mentioned Rav Druk, just to say one more incredible story. He was talking about what it means to learn Torah. He said he was sitting there with Rav Chaim Kanievsky, and they had to do some sort of injection on Rav Chaim's foot. He said the needle was this big. And he's sitting there learning with Rav Chaim, and it was his foot or whatever it was. Rav Chaim sitting there learning, and he said, as they're about to inject him, he said, I looked at Rav Chaim. Okay, he's not going to scream in agony. He's not going to this. He said, I looked in his eyes. Maybe I'll see, like, when you're in pain. He said, I'm looking at him, and they're taking this massive needle. They're shoving. He said, and he's just saying, oh, Vazokta Rabbeinu Tam. Yeah, 0. A different world. Just to realize what it means, Gedolim. And then we wonder, oh, Rav Chaim is Ruach HaKodesh, Rav Chaim says this bracha, and you hear this. Yeah, that's a level that's so beyond. Siyata D'Shmaya, let's try to connect a little bit to Bitachon in the Parsha. Irtz Hashem will be Zoicha, that Hashem will indeed take care of us, and we'll be able to see Him, most importantly, take care of us.